Hi, Party Foul here. I'm Greg, and I'm here with Scott behind the camera, and I'm doing a video called Breaking Average, the Psychology of Statistics in Warmachine. And I want to start this off with a disclaimer that this is not a statistics course. We may do another video specifically on the basics of statistics, but this video is about the psychology of statistics. That is how your perceived knowledge of statistics affects your gameplay. So why this video? Look at all this gear. I don't know if you can see there on the camera, but we got precision measuring tapes, laser devices, these really cool widgets and stuff to give you precise measurements and exacting measurements. And then we have dice. This is why I'm doing this video. Dice. You see, statistics and averages have value, but they can give an illusionary perception of control that leads to a sense of entitlement. This can, 1, tilt a player. When results don't fit into their constructed expectations, players lose focus. They become unhinged and make poor decisions. 2, statistics devalue risk-taking. The myth of luck is harmful to personal growth and dangerous to interpersonal relationships. We use it, the myth of luck, to devalue players' wins and lessen our credibility for a loss. Truly understanding statistics and dice will help you become a better player. And 3rd, analysis paralysis. People that suffer this debilitating disease are trying to compute all of the data that's on the table and running through every permutation of every scenario. The problem is, there is no optimal play. There is only the play that is right for you, or more accurately, the optimal play may not be the best play. People like this suffer bad on the clock because they can't make a decision for fear of making the wrong decision. The solution to all this, and the goal of this video, is to break averages. That doesn't mean that watching this video will make your dice roll better than average. That's impossible. What it means is that after watching this video, you will no longer hold your dice liable, and you will no longer feel entitled to average dice. To do this, I will need to deconstruct your understanding of statistics and dice. So, follow me down the deconstruction rabbit hole. I'm going to say some crazy things here, but there's a purpose to it, and I'll sum it all up at the end. So, we're going to talk about the nature of statistical data. So, A. Numbers aren't real. When the universe was created, numbers didn't exist. Numbers are a human construct or tool that we use to understand and give function and form to complex situations. Like language, another human construct, numbers can be misinterpreted. B. Statistics aren't real. Like numbers and language, the science of statistics is a human construct. It is designed to allow humans to be able to predict the future. It's basically a crystal ball, but it's imperfect because accuracy of predictions can vary wildly depending on the quality and quantity of data involved. C. Averages don't exist. Don't get me wrong, averages do exist, but there is something called the law of large numbers, and it basically states that the more data you have, the more accurate your predictions are. In a war game, the amount of data or dice rolls is small, microscopically small in terms of the requirement to get a sample that will produce average or expected results. Also, certain dice rolls carry more weight or importance than others, and that can skew perceptions as to whether or not average has been achieved. So stated more accurately, averages don't exist in war games. You are not owed average in any one game, although you will accrue an average, but it most likely won't be statistical average, and it will have little bearing on the perception of whether or not your dice were hot or cold. D. Dice are random. If you're doing a statistical analysis of the average roll of a d6, the stat nerd will tell you that the average is 3.5. I'm here to tell you that's bull. The average result of a single die 6 roll is completely and utterly random. That is why game systems that use a single die 6 to determine results generate a less accurate or average result. Simply put, less data is generated, so predictions are less accurate. Same goes for 2d6 or 3d6 systems. The result may be slightly more predictable, but they are ultimately random data in the small sampling size of the hundreds of dice rolled in a game. So, to conclude, I've just told you numbers aren't real, statistics are an illusion, there's no baseline averages, and the dice are completely random. How the hell does that help you at all? How can I enjoy a game that appears to be completely and utterly random? The same way you did before, but with the perspective that the nature of the system you are working within is imperfect, contrived, and inaccurate. With that perspective, you will be more capable of stepping back from the game and enjoying the experience, and give credit to the players for the decisions that they make. That doesn't mean you throw out statistics or averages. Far from it. Use them, and use them all the time, but do so with the knowledge they are an imperfect tool. And that's why the game is fair and balanced, because both players work with the same imperfect tools and the same devices that can be used to attempt to mitigate that imperfection. Let me put it this way. Chess is a perfect system. That is, every action or move has a determined outcome with guaranteed results. There is no randomness, besides whether or not you play black and white. Dice-based games always have a random chance of success, or a random degree of success. That means almost every decision and every move you make on the tabletop has a chance of failure. There are ways to hedge your bets, and in some situations almost guarantee a desired result, but there will be dice involved at some point, and therefore a chance of failure. The core of the game really happens when each player makes decisions that control or influence the decision-making processes of the other player. And here I'm going to give you an example. I just played a tournament this past weekend. I was going into round 3. Both me and my opponent were undefeated. I picked LeConte and he picked Kruger. It was a nice guy named Evan. He was a great guy. He played a great game. Unfortunately, I did not play a great game. I played very poorly. The scenario was outflanked, which is on the table right here now, and I feeded early. I was not aggressive enough with my placement, and that allowed Evan to play smart and not engage me, just toe the zones and protect his war beast as best as he could, which he did extremely well. My following turn, I did my best to try to get one of those war beasts. By the end of my turn, when I only had my caster to activate, I realized that looking at the game table, I had lost. I didn't do any damage to his beasts. The Axiom was right in the middle, easily charged by Getorix and the Riphorn Satyr, and my Inverter was engaging his Stalker. So I was going to lose my Colossal and my Heavy next turn and lose the game straight up. So I needed to come up with something that just involved my caster that could force my opponent to make a decision that would require him to gamble. So I had Watcher up, I camped the rest of my 6 focus, and I ran LeConte into the zone behind my Inverter, who was engaging the Stalker, who was in the set of stones, and then Kruger was about 6-7 inches back or something like that. And I had run the numbers in my head prior to doing that, and I assumed or came to the conclusion that the Stalker had about a 50% chance of doing LeConte in. But a 50% chance of not losing the game over what I considered to be 99% chance of losing the game was better. So I went for that. Turns out in his turn, the Stalker teleported over. It was Wild Aggression and Primal, all the business that Circle does. And he came up 2 boxes short. That meant that Evan had to spend the rest of his turn trying to find a way to put that additional 2 boxes onto LeConte. He did find a way, which was great, but I was happy with my decision to put Evan in that point where he had to make a decision that could cost him the game, or at least get the initiative back on me so I could start killing some of his beasts. So that's why I like playing this game, because of the thrill we get from taking risks. Calculated risks for the most part, but risks nonetheless. I am filled with anticipation, sometimes dread when the dice are being thrown. I don't know exactly what's going to happen, and that is one of the greatest draws for me in miniature games. I'm certain that if I wasn't blowing money on this, I'd be at the craps table losing my mortgage. Anyway, here comes the kicker. Here comes the conclusion. The moment of truth, and I can guarantee that some of you won't like it. Dice only matter when you or your opponent make decisions that make those dice relevant. That means don't complain that your opponent assassinated your caster when they're Def 18 and Armor 22, or rolled that 16 when they needed it, or succeeded on a 25% assassination. Ask yourself, what decision did I make that made it possible for my opponent to gamble like that? Or more accurately, what decisions did I make that made it the only recourse or the most desirable course of action for my opponent to gamble? Because you can't control dice, but you can control your opponent by making decisions that force or tempt him to make risky or gambled decisions. And you can do that with good model placement, focused attacks, aggressively playing the scenario, aggressively threatening his caster key models, offering up seemingly good trades, but most importantly, you can control when you want to gamble, when you want to invite risk. So break your average, make decisions, and say, screw the numbers, I need this to happen.